Welcome to another edition of Breaking News brought to you by Source Selection Soundbites. Today, we will discuss the case of District Communications Group, or DCG, decided at the Court of Federal Claims, or COFC. In this acquisition, the Veterans Administration, or VA, had a requirement for services assisting with veteran suicide prevention. During the evaluation, the COR provided the contracting officer with a list of contracts and planned contract actions, which may present an OCI with the solicitation. After a CO review, the VA issued an amendment to the solicitation that included a list of companies excluded from the procurement due to an actual or potential significant conflict of interest. DCG was on this list because of its subcontractor work for J.R. Reingold and Associates. J.R. Reingold and Associates was notified of the VA's decision. Reingold responded to the contracting officer to assert that there was no potential for an impaired objectivity OCI. Reingold argued that the current solicitation and the existing Reingold task order did not overlap, that the projects were distinct and completely separate, that the scope and scale of each were dissimilar, and that the current solicitation itself prevented the eventual awardee from participating in any follow-on work that resulted from advice provided pursuant to the contract. The solicitation itself provides that the prime and any all subcontractors on this task order shall, for the contract's entire period of performance, plus 3 years after completion of the contract, be restricted from participating in any procurements and/or requirements which stem and/or arise from any recommendations developed under this contract. The CO disagreed and reiterated her stance via another amendment. DCG filed a protest with the GAO, but it was denied. Then DCG filed another protest with the COFC to protest the agency's action. According to the protester, the contracting officer committed prejudicial error by excluding it from participation in the current solicitation because of an actual or potential organizational conflict of interest. In DCG's view, no OCI exists. According to the contracting officer, her review of the scope of work for Reingold's existing task order revealed that its stated contract performance requirements, as well as its required deliverables, closely aligned to the nature of services for which the VA seeks advisory assistance with under the current solicitation's stated objectives. In short, the contracting officer determined there was overlap between Reingold's existing task order and the current solicitation that was problematic because the CO concluded that Reingold, were it to perform both its existing task order as well as this solicited effort, could potentially be in a position to advise VA under this effort, to utilize the recommended support services and/or required contract deliverables it already provides to the government under its existing task order. En route to finding against the agency, the COFC noted that for purposes of an impaired objectivity OCI analysis, it is wholly irrelevant whether the two efforts are same or similar in scope or size. Instead, what is relevant is whether the contractor would be in a position of reviewing its own work or otherwise unable to perform its obligations in an impartial manner. In addition, in terms of Reingold receiving a benefit from its business relationship with DCG, the COFC noted that no benefit could arise to Reingold because the agency was already required to buy the services under the required contract line items of its current contract. As for the optional tasks on the contract, the solicitation contains an OCI mitigation clause that precludes even the possibility that their objectivity could be compromised based on the existing Reingold task order. Given these facts and the CO's own reasoning during the OCI investigation, it was clear that there was no obvious incentive to recommend its own services because they could not perform them even if recommended. Thus, the protest was sustained against the agency. Now let's address a few of the lessons learned from this protest. They include 1. Significant overlap or similarity of requirements is not sufficient to give rise to an impaired objectivity. OCI. 2. An agency's OCI mitigation clause may destroy the incentive for impaired objectivity. And 3. The CO must consider the totality of the circumstances before making a determination. In this episode of Source Selection Soundbites, we discussed the DCG case impaired objectivity OCI rules, and the nuances of making an OCI determination. This concludes today's source selection soundbite. If this video was helpful, hit the like and subscribe button to ensure you don't miss any new material. If you want more details on the subject, they are available on the Source Selection Answer app. It contains lectures, quizzes, court cases, sample documents, and more material that allows practitioners to quickly obtain actionable knowledge. Thanks for watching. See you next time.